This is We Bleed Orange and Black, the podcast for Halloween and horror lovers. Join us as we interview creators, discuss our favorite horrors, and share original spooky stories. I'm Jeff C. Carter, and this week's story, Bait Car. Fetty prowled behind the veil of overgrown bushes in search of prey. He spotted a prime specimen, a cherry-red Chevy Silverado. He pulled up his hoodie and moved in for the kill. The truck was clean, aligned with the curb. A brand new laptop lay on the passenger seat, defenseless as a baby. The back of Fetty's neck tingled. It was a jungle out here, and the game was always evolving. He glanced up. Something sleek and black hung from the streetlight like a bat. A surveillance camera. This was a bait car. Fetty shoved his hands into the pouch of his hoodie and rambled down the sidewalk without so much as a look back. Back in the day, cops left bait cars in the hood with the driver door open and keys in the ignition. How stupid could you be? Well, a lot of fools took that bait. Got popped. Survival of the fittest and all that. Still, there are a lot of bottom feeders around, snake-in-the-grass bitches, crawling under cars and cutting off catalytic converters. Not Fetty. He was an apex predator. When he took the G-ride, he got the head, the tail, the whole damn thing. His homeboy Van P taught him that. He hadn't seen Van P in a minute, and that fool was hard to miss. He had GTA inked across his forehead in pale prison blue. Maybe the cops had finally taken that as reasonable cause. Fetty grabbed a pouch of Swisher Sweets from his backpack, blazed one up, and smoked while he walked. He turned the corner to duck the eye of the police camera. The Swisher almost dropped from his mouth. He had stumbled onto the den of a minivan. The aquamarine Dodge Caravan nestled under a dark overpass, behind a curtain of scraggly vines. Almost hidden, Fetty's sharp eyes had pierced its camouflage. He licked his lips. The average man wouldn't look twice at such a bloated old cow, because they didn't know the laws of the jungle. Age before beauty. An old Dodge Caravan could be chopped up for parts and sold for 4 times its Blue Book value. He entered the concrete cavern. A truck passed overhead, grunting like a wildebeest. The sound melted into the distance, leaving Fetty alone with his quarry. There were no streetlights, nowhere to hang cameras. The minivan needed a wash, but it was in decent condition for its age. Was it too good to be true? Fetty hung back to scope out his surroundings. The game was always evolving. Yesterday's basic bait cars had become tricked-out trap cars. Even after you boosted the ride, the cops could remotely kill the engine and lock you inside. Fetty wondered again where the hell Van P had gone. Then he remembered what the OG told him. Softly, softly, catchy monkey. Fetty pulled out his phone. If the minivan was stuffed with remote control gear, his phone would sniff it out. It was always listening for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signals, and it got jittery around big electric fields. It even had an app for finding air tags and other GPS trackers. Fetty pulled a pink plastic skateboard from his backpack and slid under the automobile like a mechanic. Grimy gray sheets of bug-clotted cobwebs hung to the ground. The tires bulged against the asphalt like a pit bull's jowls. The treads were patchy, too. Fetty began to worry that the minivan had broken down or been abandoned. He quickly used his phone's flashlight to check the catalytic converter. It was filthy, but intact. He checked the wheel wells, liner, and frame. There were no tracking devices. Fetty was glad he'd stolen the phone. And that little kid's skateboard. He slid out and used a thin length of metal to pop the lock on the passenger side door. No alarm. Fetty leaned inside. It was muggy inside the minivan, and it straight up stank. All cars had some kind of scent. New ones reeked of vinyl and plastic, and the old ones soaked up funk. Car mats and upholstery were sponges for sweat, body odor, fast food grease, cigarette smoke, spilled beer, bong water, snot, and vomit. Fetty had smelled it all, but he'd never been hit with a musk like this. It was human and something else. He kept a pine tree air freshener in his backpack for times like these, but it had to wait until he finished searching the car. There was nothing under the blotchy seats but the typical carpet of ketchup packets, old maps, and lost pens. Fetty didn't care that it was a yeasty old Dodge Caravan. It was his prey. He pounced into the driver's seat, stabbed a screwdriver into the ignition, and twisted. The engine growled. Fetty's blood thundered with the thrill of the hunt. He couldn't wait to get this beast to the chop shop. He adjusted the flaky leather seat, strapped on his seatbelt, and put his hands at 10 and 2. He wasn't about to give the cops a reason to pull him over, and that included his visibility. The windows had steamed up the moment he sat down, adding a gloomy haze atop the dark brown specks and spatters. He hit the wipers. They jerked and scraped across the glass like the legs of a convulsing insect. The stereo murmured. Fetty didn't need the distraction. He thumped the off switch. The babble of voices continued. He turned the dial to find a clear station. It was all the same garbled gibbering, an imitation of blended pop songs and drive-time DJs. He pressed the AM/FM button and flinched. The texture was wrong, lumpy, but oddly familiar. He squinted. What in the... It was a human tooth. Fetty cringed and then froze, eyes rooted to the leather passenger seat. 3 small stains in pale prison blue. G-T-A. The seatbelt constricted his chest. The rearview mirror slithered down towards his face. Fetty searched for his reflection in its shimmering scales. All it showed him was a smear of flesh and steel. He yanked out the screwdriver and stabbed. The stereo trilled and jabbered, swallowing his cries. The game had evolved.
Is it turning the people into parts of itself?
It's like a weird monster bait car, unlike a police bait car that just records you when you try to steal it. This one is like eating people and using their parts.
I was like, man, did he do his research for this? Like, do you really know if it could be broken
down
for 4
I did so much research for this story.
Its Blue Book value.
And I actually, I was sending this back and forth to a friend of the show, Ed Erlach, and I ended up taking a lot of the research out. Like, there was these painstaking, like, if you think there's a lot of stuff in there of him searching the car for cameras and sensors, there was so much more stuff.
You should put it all back in and submit it to, like, Car and Auto magazine or whatever. I don't know if that's a real magazine, but side note, we used to have an Aquamarine minivan.
Yeah, apparently the 2000 era Dodge Caravan is one of the most stolen cars. This is one of my revenge stories. Like my paintball drive-by story and my dentist stories, my car has been broken into twice. Recently for the second time.
For the first time in my driveway.
Yes. So, I should maybe put out a collection of revenge stories. But when I was writing this, I came to a realization that just like my dumpster story that I wrote for the Christmas show, this is another thing eats the guy at the end story. I think that just kind of comes with the territory when you're writing very short horror stories. But I had another story on deck, like in my list of story ideas, that ended the same way. And it's like, I need to stretch a little. My first story collection was Between the Teeth. And a lot of the stories in there were people getting eaten at the end. I think I need to
called it Thing Eats
flex.
People, it would have sold better.
Yeah, I think I need to flex and just challenge myself to come up with some different, maybe more abstract, weird endings.
So I have a important and esoteric question for you. Does snot have a smell? And if so, wouldn't you just be smelling it all the time?
Well, it's like body odor. You know, you don't notice your own stink.
Oh, I notice my own stink.
Oh, jeez.
It's a constant source of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Consternation, lament, sadness, despair.
All of those, all of the above.